Hey guys, Miss Peterson here, and today we're going to be going over how to graph and do some math in Google Sheets. So we're going to be processing this set of data. This data comes from an OpenSciEd simulation about the energy transfer between two substances. So in this, we have our different samples, okay? And we can press go and they transmit energy between them, and the simulation graphs the energy and the temperature for us. So I can set the mass and the starting temperatures, and the simulation tracks the energy change and the change in temperatures. And that's the data that you see here: the starting temp, the starting mass, the temperature change, and then the change in energy for sample A and sample B, both in solid-solid interactions and solid-gas interactions. First thing we're going to do is we are going to have Excel calculate our mass times our change in temperature. We noticed a pattern with that with some previous data. So to make Google Sheets do math, go ahead and zoom a little bit on in here so you guys can see it. Okay, so to make Google Sheets do math, you type equals. Now I want it to be the mass times the change in temperature. So I click on the cell that contains my mass, okay? It is shift star above the 8 for a multiplication symbol. So again, shift 8 is what I'm pressing to get that little star times that temperature change. I press enter and it's like, hey, do you want me to do this for the rest of them? I'm like, yes, please. And then let's go ahead and align those decimals and make sure they all have the same precision. Since we only had 4 digits here, we're going to want to keep our energies at those 4 digits. Our masses, since it was a simulation, we'll just assume that those masses are flat and even. So now we have our data there. I'm going to do the same thing over here, equals, and I want it to be the mass times the change in temperature. And I do want you to do that for all of them. And if we wanted to control the decimal, we could do that as well. Okay, let's go ahead and we'll be doing the same thing for that solid gas. But now let's go over how to graph it. So sometimes Google Sheets is really smart, and you can just select the data you want to graph. I want our mass times our change in temp to be on our x-axis and our change in energy to be on the y-axis. So I'm going to select those columns. I go to insert and I tell it to do a chart. And right now it's giving me a graph chart, and that's just not what I want. So if it's not giving you exactly what I want, sometimes I think the easiest way is just to start from scratch. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that one, click on any empty cell on my sheet, and insert a chart. Okay. Now I want this to be a scatter plot. Okay. Most of the time, our graphs in science classes will be scatter plots. I have to tell it my data range. So it is the same as I said earlier. It is these 2 columns, the mass and then that energy. So I tell it those. And now it's like, oh, that's what you want. So it puts the left-hand column, mass times the change in temperature, on my x-axis, and the change in energy on my y-axis. Okay, so there we go. Now I have a graph. To add everything I need, I go into Customize. First, I'm going to give it a title. This is our Substance A energy transfer for our solid-solid. Okay. And then I want to give it our axis titles. Our horizontal axis title, let's see. Well, let me just click on the cell for it. Nope. Okay, back in here. If that ever goes away, you just go into here, right click, press edit, and it'll bring it back up. So I'm in Customize, axis titles. My horizontal is my mass of A times the change in temperature. And my vertical axis title is that energy in calories. Okay, because that's what our simulation in, energy change in calories. And so then my units for this would be grams times degree Celsius. Can't do a degree sign easily on here, so we'll just do grams times C. Okay, and there we have our graph. Last thing we need to do, like we do for most graphs, is add our trend line. So we're back in that Customize menu. We go to Series, and we are going to check the box for a trend line. And we want to show the equation of that trend line. Okay, so There we go. That's how we do a graph. Let's go ahead and do it again for substance B. So let's see this time if Google Sheets wants to give me the graph I want. I'll select it. I go to Insert Chart. Nope, it still thinks I want a scatter plot, which I do not. So click on an empty cell. Insert. Chart. Okay. And it is a scatter plot. The data that I want it to do is the calculated mass times change in temperature versus the energy. So I select those cells. It automatically knows what I want on my X and Y axis. Awesome. Go into Customize. This is now my chart title is my substance B energy transfer for that solid. Okay. And I'm going to add in my horizontal axis title as my mass of B times the change in temperature. So that'll be in units of grams times degrees Celsius. And my vertical axis title is my energy change of B in calories. And then we go into series, and we are adding in that trend line with the equation. Yep. So that's how we graph in Google Sheets. Do you guys think these graphs will look the same for, trying to zoom out here. Do you guys think these graphs will look the same for the solid gas interactions? Or do you think it's going to be a little bit different? Go ahead and repeat the process and graph those two. Okay, bye.